The highest value is understanding. I mean, we're all so freaking busy, and the time is the one thing that we can't get back. And I think that spending time on creating a second brain unleashes more time in the future and scalability, because we're our brain, our capacity, our time, and everything in between can only go so far, whereas AI is infinite in every direction.
Right.
So leveraging these tools that are better than everybody and smarter because they just are, really skip levels you ahead of where most people are in this day and age. So I think the ability now to hopefully stay focused, really that's the goal and purpose of all of this, is to be completely focused and scale your business at a lightning fast pace, because you know what's happening, because you know the leaks, because you know where the opportunity is and what you need to do today.
Justin, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Justin, would love if you can, share a bit of background and context around what you're building these days. We met here in Austin at the Agentic Society, and I knew we had to have you on the pod because you're really at the cutting edge around some of the shifts that are happening with Google and how they're changing the search experience in the world of, agents and LLMs. So talk a bit about what you're building these days, what you're most excited about, and then we'll get into some of the core products that you're building.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thanks for having me. So a little bit about me. I have been in the marketing space for the last 10 years. Our business has been around a swarm system for the last 10 years, helping local service businesses rank at the top of Google, and now more so AI visibility, whether that's Siri or ChatGPT, Grok, everything in between. And we do that through the backbone of SEO as well as other tactics. Ultimately, the shift in technology, as we've all seen with AI, and where that meets the road, and now actually with businesses, and this actually happening in front of us is happening. Roughly about a month ago at the Google I/O conference, Google announced that they are moving towards agentic search. So gone are the days of the search bar, and coming forth that it's actually rolling out, it has rolled out this month here in June for local service businesses slowly, is that agentic model where agents are going to your website and looking up the pricing, the availability, and doing things for customers. So, we've been really at the tip of the spear with that, really shaping the way that AI visibility has come along ever since ChatGPT's been around, and just figuring out how do we get visibility there? Because now with the search bar going away, the big name of the game with SEO used to be keyword tracking and looking at organic traffic and impressions and reach. But now with agents going to your website, the attribution is more important than ever, because you will no longer see the clicks that you used to, and the keyword tracking, still important to have. But the data layers of actual revenue and attribution per channel is the way that you actually find out what's working and what's not. And we're at the beginning of all of this, but there's a lot that you can do to get ahead of this and really dominate your competitors.
Yeah. So let's get into that. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of, I know you specialize in local search and local businesses. So maybe give us a real customer example or the types of businesses you work with. And then, many folks in our audience are more B2B, call it service business owners. And so it'd be helpful, myself included, I'm thinking about how do I need to rework and re-architect my website so it is much more LLM friendly. So it'd be helpful if you can walk through some specific examples and then overarching principles that business owners can think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'll talk about today is applicable to everybody, not just local service businesses. If you have a website, if you have a brand, if you're online, these are the things that you need to know. So I think a good mindset shift is really moving away from designing and putting forth human-related content as far as on your website and optimizing for that. We should be shifting away from designing brochures and like virtual online brochures right from your website to more so designing for machines and the agents now. So it's flipping that script into thinking. It's still more important than ever actually to have a well-functioning website, but having the things like your schema dialed in on every single page, having the readability on your website, again, towards the schema schema, and other high quality content. So being really specific in the content that you provide on your homepage, on your about, and getting into the granular details so that these agents can actually grab that information. And I'm sure everybody has seen the AI overviews, right? That's the stepping stone towards the agentic platform that Google's moving towards. So to paint that picture of what that actually is going to look like, and they've already started to shift things around in Google, is so you'll be coming to Google with a problem that you'll be describing, and in this agentic mode, it will then go out and create you a custom dashboard in real time inside of Google. They don't want you to leave their walled gardens, but they want to be able to do everything in there. So if you're in e-commerce even, and someone's shopping, you can say, I want all these different products, and Google's agent will go out and put all of those into one centralized cart from multiple vendors and be able to check out there from Google. So everything is stepping towards that.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's important to note that we are at the time, and this might be a hot topic, but I'll go ahead and say it. WordPress is dead, right? I think it's a platform that everybody's used, and it's a great one. That's been over the last 25 years or so, but moving away from these heavy loaded CMSs and more towards, websites that are built on Claude and then are leverage the technical backend is the future. And that's the fastest way to deploy. And I think really the future of the web is coming, if not here, and that really comes down to more web experiences in the like ChatGPT interface or Claude interface, where it's that UI of you've got all the information on your website, but ultimately customers or just leads want to know what they want to know. So why do they need to go through all of your pages and content? What essentially is going to be going towards is a personalized user experience that's a chat interface. And again, it pulls from all of your website data, so it's important to have all that technically there. But really, that web experience is going to be it's going to be getting bigger, but smaller and more confined into what you need in one space versus going out to multiple places. So it's a big shift, and it's happening right now.
Interesting. So, how should the service-based business owner, whether it's a consulting firm or like a recruiting business, whatever it might be, they really want to be able to differentiate in terms of being searched or like discovered. So how can they even get started? Maybe share a couple like prompts that they can DIY to start to think about re-architecting or replanning their existing website. And then is there a 2.0 agent-friendly tech stack that you recommend? I know you mentioned Claude Code, and what is the replacement to WordPress? What does that tech stack look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So for everybody, in those spaces, I think having a really well-defined brand, it creates the authority that Google as well as other AI platforms want to see. So, getting features in press really helps. Doing podcasts like this really help. And actually, I saw a massive study, and this would be great for you and your audience as well on our business on the LinkedIn side. I saw a study the other day that someone actually posted on LinkedIn a long tail keyword rank, like saying on his profile that he was the best person in this city, and within 24 hours he was the top in the AI overview because these bots are now, and the AI overviews are now pulling from socials like LinkedIn and other places that are high leveraged, high authority sites. So more important than ever to be working with people like you, getting content out there on a regular basis, but at a high quality, right? Going to ChatGPT or Claude and ripping and gripping content is not the move. Having strategy paired with authority on the correct channels where your target audience lives, as well as these bots, is the move. So more press, more blog content, high quality about yourself, why you're different, more LinkedIn and more Instagram. Because again, these bots can also, there's transcripts on all of these videos, right? On social. That plays a part of it. So it's really taking that and understanding that social and these other platforms and the brand ability that you have now is a leverage point that can make you springboard because it's aggregating all this data in one place. And again, it's just these trust signals that you're sending to these platforms like Google and ChatGPT to say that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a tech stack, I think creating the website in any platform, leveraging AI is great. I mean, I know Wix and WordPress kind of have some. Those are heavy models. If you want to go lightweight and really just dive into what the future is, getting inside of the terminal is the highest leverage point as far as like leveraging Claude Code. You can definitely and easily build beautiful websites inside of Claude Design that's now natively integrated into the Claude desktop app so that you can work back and forth in one place there. So telling Claude to build you this website in HTML and leverage Claude Design to kind of see that in real time, that's a really good place to do it. And then pushing that up into Vercel so that you're hosting it there. Most people, it's fine to stay there unless you're like an e-commerce and need, more hosting, like Cloudways would be a good one. But those two are really the where to do it, because that enables you to now speak to your website and tell it what updates you want, and then have it self-learning and healing over time. Because you can connect it now to your Slack channel or somewhere else to say, hey, I need to add this blog, or I have a misspelling, or I need to add a new image. Go do it now. Instead of logging in, clicking to the page, going to the edit, preview, publish. Like, how many steps is that? Compressing the image, doing all these. It's like, I just collapse a timeline by infinity now because we've got an asset that can just do the work itself.
Yeah.
So that's the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have a shared friend, Austin Distal, who recorded a 25-minute Loom video where he built a website from scratch just with Claude Code and Vercel, which was essentially a one-page testimonial video. And through prompting, natural language is able to continue to improve and iterate, pull in all the photos from his desktop and make it a beautiful design, and continue to push on, how to make it even better and more compelling. So yeah, I love this idea, this new frontier of building through just through conversation. And then again, the more precise we can be with our language, the better that end result is going to be. So maybe just turning it to you. In a world where now more context is happening in Google, how is your own customer journey shifting, right? From initial discovery to consideration to education to conversion? How is that? What are you observing in terms of how people are self-educating and reaching out to you? And then how are you shifting your own sort of content output and educating the market and your own customer acquisition funnel?
Right. Great question. So, I've had a lot of rounds of revisions to kind of get my front end offer dialed in and really bring people in the right front door. Because, for the first few years, 5-6 years, really, I just opened up all the doors. Oh, you need a website, you need social, you need this, you need that. Come on in. But now we're a system. We're running in a business that we're trying to scale here. And our front door really consists of simplification and, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And some of the mistakes that I've made and just kind of some value that hopefully can help other people is there's, especially in this age of everything shifting, and also we're in a trust recession, not understanding who to trust. A lot of people have been burned when it comes to SEO or marketing just in general. So having a clear stepping stone and an ascension in education so that you're dropping in value that can be understood to your target audience in the way that they speak, think, and dream is the way to kind of bring people out of the 25 years of Google search to what it is now. Because it literally, I actually wrote a book about this about 3 years ago, called it All in this book, about how everything was going to go this way. And, we tried to educate the customers ahead of time and just show them everything and do everything. But it's really what we found is when we can break it down into simple education pieces, like on LinkedIn, one post about one value bomb that really speaks to their language, that brings people out of their shell. It's let me learn a little bit more about that. So we've done those drops across social, across our website, and across the web. And really on our Facebook ads and our meta side, the lead generation side, right? We used to drive people to our invisible business scan, which I think you saw.
Yeah.
What we realized after spending $10,000-$20,000, got some ROI there, but not enough. But anyways, what we found was that it was overwhelming, and the information there was just too much, although it provided the entire gauntlet of what to fix on your website and your Google business and everything in between, just, massive value, was the overwhelm.
Mhm.
So what we've done now is simplify it, and we've created a Siri score, right? So now we're focusing on one thing here, because actually 2 weeks ago, Google just announced that Siri is powered by Gemini, and Gemini is obviously a part of Google. And so we created a new offer and just education stepstone, again, getting in that front door of, let's first optimize for where people are at, which is, and what everybody knows is Siri. And let's be honest, especially in the local service businesses, the homeowners that have nice homes that are making six-figure incomes, typically 6 out of 10 in Texas actually have an iPhone.
Yep.
And so let's optimize for those people that have Siri.
Yeah.
Okay. So we get people in, educate them that the Siri needs to be optimized to your Google business profile. Once we've done that, we then educate them on, okay, let's take a look at your website. Is it agentic ready? No. Okay, what can we do to do that? We've got a system to implement that. So again, it's that, let's fix one thing, keep it simple so you understand like where the needle is moving in your most front of view, and then look at the next part of your website. So we're, again, slowly moving people into the new generation of web, and then we offer them our ongoing services on managing that, adding more content, getting at the top of Google and ChatGPT and all that kind of fun stuff. Because
Yep.
and just so everybody understands at a high level about how Google and AI visibility works, this is a great way that most people can tend to understand is Google and AI, ranking at the top is like meeting a new friend and, becoming best friends. And the way to do that with anybody is having more conversations, building trust. You do that the same way in Google and AI is sharing more authority, more content on LinkedIn, on socials, on your blog, anywhere that you can. Again, high quality, because it just came out with another update that really dinged low quality. So don't do that. Really dive into strategy. But again, the more conversations, blog posts, content, etc., that we can have with Google and AI, the more trust we build. Therefore, we are in the AI overviews. We are at the top of Google. We are at the top of ChatGPT in the recommendations.
Yeah.
So that's how to think about it. But to go back to your original question, because SEO has always been overly complicated and not so sexy, but it is, again, it's like you're owning real estate. It is a massive asset that is, can give you multiple dividends. But to educate people based off of what they've already learned to where they're at now is really, let's start with one thing and then move you down the aisle. But the easiest way for all of this kind of stuff outside of that, acquisition channel is just dropping knowledge bombs on social channels and just becoming that authority.
Okay, that's helpful. And so it sounds like in terms of quality, is there sort of like a measurable or a metric-driven way someone should think about that? I know sometimes it's like take a look at the highest ranking posts from your competitors and make it even better and develop a system to make things better. But say someone is publishing on LinkedIn and they really want to give more of their subjective POV. Do you have any, again, what we find is generally it's moving away from how-to content, which is anyone can search it. It's more, are you publishing something that only you can tell that story? You have the insights and the substance that only you can deliver. And it's really the context is unique to you, right? And then of course, there's got to be some substance and some key learnings behind it, but it's much more narrative and specific to the business that you're running. And like as an operator, what are the things that you're noticing day to day and communicating in that language? Because that's ultimately what people care about, which is your human context and interpretation around how you are navigating and making sense from all the conversations you're having with leadership team, with your sales team, with customers, all this sort of stuff. And so, before we get into the second brain side of stuff, is there a way that you are guiding people to produce higher quality content?
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of nailed it with your first comment about reviewing what others are ranking for, right? And I think it's understanding your target audience at a deep level, and then like getting data sources for that, and asking Claude or ChatGPT to search for what are the common phrases that people are looking for? What are the problems that people are looking for when it pertains to my service or offer? And then developing a topical map around those real world, like long tail questions
Mm.
so that you're really diving into what people are actually searching for. Now, obviously, when it comes to search and ranking, this is still holds true with your domain authority, right? That it comes down to how long your website's been live. It comes down to how much trust you have, the authority, all these different pillars. But all that to say is higher quality content does come at a rate where you are actually structuring the blog in a specific way. So I wouldn't necessarily create a template, but understanding the structure of how many images, when do I put the key phrase into, or when do I put the next key phrase into the blog? So that's typically in the first paragraph. So because when AI agents go over to the blogs and read things, they're not always ingesting the full thing. They want to go quickly throughout it, and you do that through the headers, and then you add the key phrases in the first paragraph. You have FAQs. Make sure that you have the schema all marked up. You add in reviews. If you can, big bonus, if you can add in videos on there, and then leverage something like Wistia so that you've got a transcript that's on the background as well that can be digested by Google. So those are some power-ups that you can do for blogs to really super high quality jump.
Wow, this is great. Okay, so we got some great notes here. Before we dive into the second brain, we'll make sure to, again, include in the show notes things like the Siri score and how people can really access that, as well as making sure they can access the diagnostic to make their site more agentic ready. And then a lot of these tips that you mentioned around getting more videos, using certain tooling on their website. So with that, we'd love to dive into the second brain now. So I'll kind of just hand the floor over to you to set the context and how you've been building it and the value that you've been finding from the second brain that you're building.
Yeah, absolutely. So after getting into Claude Code and really just agentic engineering, one of the first things I found was that I don't know where everything is. My data's all over the place. I need to see visually what's happening. So I started to create a command center. So I started adding all these different things so I could visually see like a dashboard of everything. Then what it came down to is I've got all of these different data sources. So I've got an engine. Now I need to turn that engine into something else. That essentially became the second brain, and that's becoming a more and more popular phrase across the web. And every business should really have this, no matter how big or small. This is the future. And I think you mentioned something very cool at one of our meetups a couple of weeks ago, where I think that there's definitely a future where we have our second brains, our businesses talk to each other and make decisions on partnerships and whatever else. I think that could be the future, which is really cool. But an overview of that is really just every part of your business in one place that has that really has everything there, so that you can see what to move the needle. Now, this all sounds great and all, and I'm going to show you guys what I built, but I think it's important to note that anybody, you can go out and grab this data. You can tell Claude or ChatGPT to go grab this via MCP or an API and start building it into a dashboard. But data is data, right? If we don't process it, if we don't have a foundation or a backbone for that to go somewhere, then it's not really doing any favors for us. So over the last 6 months or so, I've created what I call Hive Mind, and I'm going to share my screen here of what that looks like. And this is just an example. This might, I've again spent a lot of time on this. So what I want to provide is an insight into what could be, not a recommendation of where to start.
Yeah.
And before we get in as far as actually where to start, I think it's important because this is going to become a ball of flashing lights here in a second. To get started with your second brain, it's as easy as getting all of your data sources in one place. So create a folder on your desktop, or create a Google Sheet or Google Doc and start listing out what are all the platforms my business runs on. Do I use Fathom? Do I use Zoom? Where do I get my transcripts from? How do I pull all of my transcripts into one folder? So we're aggregating all of this data that's according to our business, so that the next steps that we can start processing and connecting these dots with this data. So again, that's a first place to start, is listing out all of the information, the platforms that you use, looking up to see if they have an MCP or an API that you can connect with. That way you can hit the ground running, because that does tend to take a bit of time, but that's the first place to start with anybody. So let's dive in here. So first up, This is Hive Mind, the dashboard as a whole. So I created a visual here that is the Hive Mind, right? And
Hmm.
what you'll see here, actually, this is like a 3D
Very
thing that
cool.
I used to
Yeah.
create this. And, you know, my company Swarm System centralized the theme around bees and all that fun stuff. And our Hive Mind here is interactive, where anytime there's motion or anything like that, we've got animations that happen. And actually what these bees are either skills or integrations that are flying around. So this gives me, I've seen people have like the Jarvis view. I didn't want to copy that. I want to create Hive Mind in its own.
Mm.
So I used Fable to create all of this. It took quite a bit of power to make this happen. But this again pulls in all my skills. If we've got like a bee down here it says it's stale, it's in like a yellow state, lets me know what's working, what's not, what I gotta go focus on or needs me. As you can see on this left-hand side, it kind of shows me things that I need to pay attention to. And again, this is kind of an extreme visual of a dashboard, but I wanted to show you guys this is all possible for anyone.
Yep.
It's really what it comes down to is the person behind the computer and behind really coding it or leveraging these AI. But we're in a really cool state to be able to create something like this would have taken years, just this dashboard alone. And
Yep.
now we can take our creativity skills and really move the needle with the business. Now, did this animation move the needle for the business? No, but I wanted it and it's done. So
Yep.
moving forward into how this works. So again, when we're building these things, it's really important to understand how these, whether they're skills, whether they are agents or anything in between, tell your agent to build you a visual on how it's connected, how it works, so that
Nice.
you have that, and then that's an SOP that your agents can also follow. Otherwise, if you don't have guardrails or understanding, then you really don't know how your system works. So I had to do that. So we have at a high level our data sources, we've got 19 modules there. We've got our processors. We've got our intelligence modules, our action layers. Let me go back over here. Our delivery layers and our feedback loop. So just to quickly go over what these are. Data sources, again, are all from the different platforms that we use. Processors take this data into different modules, and I'll go through that here in a second, that process all of the data so that it's actually actionable and pertains to your business. We've got intelligence modules that learn more about the business and have an intelligence loop. So we're not just feeding in data and processing it. We're then having an intelligence loop to get better. What were the mistakes that happened? What happened with this client? And so on and so forth. So the next time we onboard or the next time we're upselling, this intelligence loop can interact with us and tell us what to do what didn't work last time. And that feeds into the action layer. And then again, we have the delivery layer that's basically displays throughout the Hive Mind, and then the feedback loop. And at a crazy view here, this is how
Wow.
it's all interacting. So again, this visual really shows me at a really deep level, and we can click on a specific one to see, how they're processing or whatever, so that we can really break it down, right? But essentially, all of these things are feeding together so that they come down to the action hub here, because essentially we can connect all of this information, have the processors, have the intelligence hub, but at the end of the day, we're all businesses. And what do we care about? Growth and revenue and sales. So if all of this that we're doing doesn't go towards that, then we're just diving deeper in the black hole. So what we did is take all of this information and processes, create an intelligence loop, but feed it into an action hub to tell us in real time every single day, what are the top 3 things that I need to do today to move the needle in the business, so that I'm not having to think about it. I know that I have a healthy decision to make on the business today, and I know that it's actually going to move the needle. Because again, if we're just taking this information and ingesting it ourselves, we're still a human in the loop.
Right.
Remove that. Right? We've got to be able to focus on what matters. That's why we have our Stripe integrated, our banks integrated. That way we have our revenue and our accounting and everything together, so that it can actually determine what we need to do on moving the needle. So before I move forward, do you have any questions on this stuff so far?
No, that looks very comprehensive, but also pretty overwhelming. So I'd be curious to to hear, what does a day in the life look like for you using this system?
Yeah, absolutely. So going more towards the modules that we have here. So a quick note about, how we frame this and put this all together. Alex Hormozi is the GOAT across the board. He's interviewed and scaled, hundreds of businesses, done hundreds of millions of dollars. He will be a billionaire shortly, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But essentially, he's written 3 books that are the pillars of sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes down to the leads, the money models, and the offers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Each of those are essentially blueprints for your business. Now, he wrote these books, I've read them, listened to them, done the exercises. But what can we actually do with that information? So instead of rewriting the book and creating different processing engines based off of what we think makes sense, I took Alex Hormozi's books in a PDF format or whatever text format, and then had Claude build out engines from the data that we're getting as processing engines. So there's 3 different books so that we're focused on our offers, our money models, and our leads in 3 separate modules that help us move forward based off of where we're at, whether it's with the ads or everything in between. So we took that as a blueprint in the framework and created these modules. So on a day-to-day basis, this is updating in real time for the offers, or the leads engine, or the money models engine. And it's telling us what we need to focus on or what's happening within the business. And
Can we spend a minute on maybe let's just go into leads, because that's often a common bottleneck for most businesses. How do I get more high quality leads? And so let's take a look at what you built out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the $100 million leads, he has there's a few core things there. He's got the lead magnets, the core 4, the funnel math, and the lead getters. So we created modules based off of our specific company, what our things are, and what we're doing for those lead magnets, what we're doing for the core 4, and how that all lines up. And this scores you dynamically based off of what's actually working and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I think, the V2 or V3 version. I need to update this a little bit, but it does have really everything that pertains to the book of moving the needle with these things. Because again, everybody needs leads, but Alex Hormozi has put together the engine to do this, and this engine takes the data that you have in real time and processes it so that it can tell you, okay, your warm outreach is good, you're posting free content per day, you're running ads, you've got your cold outreach going. This all feeds into the Hormozi Hub, which we'll go into in a second. But each one of these is a sub module so that you understand what's working and what's not, and what you need to actually go do. Because a lot of times marketers or business, owners or whatever is like, I'll just go post on social, or I'll just create a new offer or whatever else.
Very random,
this
unstructured.
takes the guessing out of it. Yeah, exactly. And so instead of just guessing, this helps you understand what you're not either doing enough of or where the opportunities are at large. So it's really helpful so that you can build one part of your lead funnel out at a time, understanding what the KPIs are versus just guessing.
So I know you built a pretty comprehensive that audit for SEO. And so did that come out of this analysis and what you built here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had it review what the target audience wanted, and really a way to get leads in the door as my first for the invisible business scan. And then I reran that a couple of weeks ago based off of the data that I was seeing, and it found that in my ads that I believe it was 80% of the conversions and people clicking through were coming from graphics or videos that pertained specifically to Siri. So people want to know more and more about how does Siri talk about my business. So that's why we kind of confined and really put our offer down from Invisible Business Scan, it was all encompassing, to, okay, this is what people are clicking on and what they want. So let's give the people what they want, right? That was the way to do it.
Really interesting. And you probably wouldn't have surfaced that insight on your own, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe let's go. I know you might be getting to this, but what does that, morning digest look like for you, where you've gotten clarity on what you need to do to attack the day?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go, let me kind of step into that. So
cool.
in addition to all of this too, right, what we want to have is a voice inside of these data processors. So we created a Hormozi brain. He's going crazy on YouTube right now with his shorts, his other channel. So what we do is we have a cron job run every day, and we ingest every single one of his videos and the transcripts from YouTube and have that in the backbone so that when we do process this data and the output is actually in his voice, it does actually pertain to what he's recommended to other people. We've got his books and all that fun stuff, but the next level is let's actually get his voice in here and involved. So that comes down to next is the Hormozi Hub. So based off of all of those 3 different books, those 3 different modules that we created, plus the Hormozi brain, it now takes you into simplifying it. Okay, this week's one constraint is the sales capacity in your ceiling. The offer is strong and leads are flowing. The bottleneck is hands to work the pipeline. So this is basically saying you need to get more out of the business, Justin, and stop selling these things and get more salespeople in. And it tells you exactly what to do, how many leads per day you're having, your MRR growth, KPI trackers based off of each one of these sub-modules inside of Hormozi. So this is like a dashboard for all of that. It goes over your data at a high level so that you can actually take action from all of this. Now, this is the Hormozi Hub. The next step is really, this is where I live, is the action hub, right? So we've got those data processors, and now we're taking all of this and coming from the intelligence loop, coming from all the data sources and everything in between. Here is what we actually need to do now. So it's telling me, like, I've got a client that's upcoming that hasn't had contact in 19 days, or there's another Q2 recalibration plan. So it tells you exactly what you need these 3 things to do today based off of everything that we've already talked about. So that's really what it comes down to. And then the next layer on top of that is, okay, now we can just talk to our business. Okay. So this is a chat feature that we've built out where basically, if we don't want to necessarily go in to these other modules and just want to talk about things and just whatever, all of this is connected in one place. And now you can literally talk to your business. Your business is breathing and living at this point. This is where we're at.
That's cool.
So that's the Hive Mind.
Yeah. Thanks for walking through that. This is really interesting. Yeah, this is where it makes it real. Can you go back to that chat interface one more time?
Yeah.
I'd be curious what some of those other prompts are that you have.
Let's see here.
Okay, so that's like, what should I focus on this week?
I mean, we can literally type in anything. It's a full open chat. We've got the ability to talk to it and whatever else. So
and is this like demo data, or is this like your real business? Like, are these real prospects coming in?
Just for the purpose of the podcast, I've got this on demo for sure.
Okay, cool. So maybe, let's ask, what was my contracted revenue last month and what actually was paid?
Actually paid. Let's see what it does here.
Yeah, put in what should landed last month. Yeah, active subscriptions, but I need to see the payment settlement timeline to tell you. Okay, so it tells you what the active subscriptions are. The settlement layer looks like it needs to check that.
Yeah, I might need to tweak that part of it, but
that's cool. It tells you what to fix.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, really interesting. Cool. And so what do you find, what would you say is like the highest value for you, and what might be the highest perceived value for someone that were to set this up in their own business?
The highest value is understanding. I mean, we're all so freaking busy, and the time is the one thing that we can't get back. And I think that spending time on creating a second brain unleashes more time in the future and scalability, because our brain, our capacity, our time, and everything in between can only go so far, whereas AI is infinite in every direction.
Right.
So leveraging these tools that are better than everybody and smarter, because they just are, really skip levels you ahead of where most people are in this day and age. So I think the ability now to hopefully stay focused. Really, that's the goal and purpose of all of this.
Yeah,
is to be completely focused and scale your business at a lightning fast pace, because you know what's happening, because you know the leaks, because you know where the opportunity is and what you need to do today. Now you start getting your team involved and syncing in the same, energy with all of this. I mean, you're unstoppable.
Yeah.
So just really removing the human in the loop. That's it.
Yeah. And are you still using the chat interface within, say, Claude, like whether it's Claude's cowork, design, or code, or are you moving more of that into this chat interface and it's pulling in from Claude for the reasoning layer or whatever else?
Yeah, great question. So for the most part, when it comes to business, I'll just leverage, I just work inside a Hive Mind.
Yeah.
If there's something broken, I'll go over to Claude Code. But for the most part, outside of for my business, I leverage at the terminal level. I think, that's the aspiration where everybody should be at. But if you can use the UI and the desktop app, you're in a great spot. And it's always going to be changing and getting easier and easier. But with the terminal, you do get a little bit more power. So just a quick note there.
Yep. What are some of again, I would say I'm more of a interface user within Claude Code or Claude Chat. And so I know you can leverage different harnesses within terminal, but what would you say some of the other power features and points of flexibility are by going direct to terminal?
Yeah, great question. So I use Cursor as well as Warp as far as the IDE. So that lets you kind of bring in all this information in code. But the really big payback on being able to leverage at the terminal is you can bring in different models. So you can bring in ChatGPT or Gemini, and a lot of I have a skill, and I believe you do too, the EBI skills. Shout out CT.
Yeah.
Where even better if so you can bring in a contrarian view leveraged by ChatGPT, or really Gemini is really good for that, or a different view, a judge view from ChatGPT, and have all of these different models talking to each other so that you get an exponentially better output. So this gives you way more flexibility and growth patterns from getting straight to the source. So if you're leveraging the MCP or APIs, leveraging different AI models all in one place, it lets you really do that much easier than when you're confined to, whether it be ChatGPT's desktop or Claude's desktop, you're using their models. So this gives you a bit more flexibility.
Yeah, cool. That makes a lot of sense. Great. Well, Justin, I appreciate, the overview and a lot of the knowledge that you've shared here. If people want to learn more about, again, improving their own website, their visibility, and how they show up and get discovered, where can they go to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to swarmsystem.ai. And anybody that comes over from this podcast, would love to give away a free 30-minute overview and just strategy session. So run on over there, and we'd love to get on a call.
Beautiful. All right, Justin, good talking. Appreciate it. And look forward to connecting at the next mastermind here in Austin.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Take care.